the veteran guy on this roster when you look at the wide receivers group. And when I caught up with him today, he says he knows that there's a lot of criticism out there as it pertains to this group in the absence of Dez Bryant. But to borrow a term from Bryant, Beasley really is unbothered. Under this new coach, Sanjay Lau, they're going through the most basic of things, getting back to the foundation of what it is to be a wide receiver. In fact, Beasley told me he's never had a coach that is as technical as he is and has a terminology for every step. The other thing that he really likes right now is the fact that you've got speed in that room and you've got the youth. He and Tavon Austin, guys that can play both on the inside and on the outside. He thinks that is going to be an advantage for them. In other words, you're not going to be able to predict which guy is running which route, which was a criticism of this offense last year. And then you've got a guy like Dak Prescott, who recently spent time with the group in Orlando, building rapport and working on timing outside of the facility, something that their head coach Jason Garrett says is huge.
I feel like we're being written off because they're different, you know what I mean? We don't have the typical like big tall receiver who's going to go up and get fade balls all the time, but we got guys who can do a lot of other things and guys who can run, so it's not going to be any worse or better, it's just going to be different.
But Bryant is, of course, missed. Beasley says that's his boy. They talk all the time. They miss his personality out here, and you can feel it, even as the fans are here. You feel the absence of a guy like Dez Bryant, and they said they miss how vocal he could be. But Beasley said there are other guys stepping up, and I haven't really talked about him enough, but Tavon Austin, a guy whose name keeps coming up out here because of his versatility. Coach Sanjay Lau told me that this is a guy that's like a sponge. He's incredibly intense when you go through these very technical elements of how Lau likes to teach his receivers. And I saw that firsthand out here today, just in the walkthroughs. He is literally, he sort of glides out there through some of these drills, and he just really locks in with the coach and with the players. I even saw him out there going through some of these things with Terrence Williams. So it's good that you've had somebody else step up. And again, it's a lot of this like unpredictability because you don't have that dominant guy you're throwing to, but they're beginning to sell me on this. Maybe the versatility and the unpredictability is good for that side of the ball.
Go from East Coast to West Coast now to Oxnard, California, where Jane Slater is with the Cowboys as they get set for training camp. And Jane, let's talk overall priorities here, the biggest things the Cowboys want to accomplish this year in Oxnard.
Well, I think the biggest thing they want to accomplish is seeing what they have at some of these position groups that saw departures in the offseason. We'll start with the wide receivers group, of course, missing Dez Bryant, who they said goodbye to in the offseason. And, you know, we've talked about the fact that this is now a room full of a bunch of no-name guys. Of course, you've got Cole Beasley, who was incredibly effective with Dak Prescott and Dak's rookie campaign. We've talked about the importance of really getting him going again in the slot. And then they brought on Tavon Austin from the Rams. And in talking to new wide receivers coach Sanjay Lau, they think this is a guy that can be a real difference maker. They're moving him all over the field, so they like what he brings to the table. And the other guy they really like is Allen Hurns, a guy they brought over from Jacksonville. I talked to folks in Jacksonville who are really high on this guy. They just simply couldn't afford him. And so now that he is here, we'll see what he's capable of doing in camp. You know, I asked Sanjay Lau what he's looking for in his wide receivers, and he kept using the word violent, guys. He wants violent, explosive receivers. And I said, give me a guy that comes to mind. And he said Michael Irvin. Of course, who wouldn't want a Michael Irvin on their football team? You have to think they sort of had that with Dez Bryant. But now we've got to see what these guys can really do. And they're going to see that after seeing some limited action in those 12 practices in OTAs and, of course, in minicamp. The other position group, of course, tight end Jason Witten didn't really come off the football field a whole lot. So now you've got these guys with such limited experience, guys like Jeff Swaim out of Texas, and then Dalton Schultz, who they got out of Stanford, a guy who I thought was pretty interesting. He studied Jason Witten's tape in college. He wanted to be Jason Witten 2.0, and now, of course, he is on this roster. So a lot of those guys, this camp is important for them, seeing how they step up and who emerges as the guys to fill some pretty big holes as we approach this new season.